Happy Wednesday.
Yes, happy Wednesday. We're back.
We're back. We're back.
No, really.
Yes, I know. I feel like a month went by so fast.
So fast. I know I was looking at like my album because all the like the videos in my album and I was like, oh wow, like a month?
Yes.
It's in my November album, like it's December. And then really I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost January.
Yeah.
So
Like 2 weeks from January.
yeah.
So, hey now.
Hey,
Hey, thanks for joining.
welcome.
Well, do you want to just get on ready and dive on in?
Let's get into it. It's 8 o'clock.
All right, right. We on the clock. Let's get We are on time and ready to go. So, what is up, everybody? Thank you all so much for joining, whether you're joining us live right now or if you're watching a little later. We are here to present the Empowered Together Instagram Live series, where we
Yeah.
aim to create a collaborative and supportive space for families, educators, and homeschool communities to connect, learn, and grow together.
Yes, in each session, we'll explore the unique challenges and opportunities of education today and offering guidance on topics ranging from academic supports to social emotional growth.
Yeah, so our goal with all of this, with what we're doing, is to equip every family with community, resources, and strategies that you all can use to help your children shine on their or your collective educational journey.
Yes, today we're going to dive into the world of homeschooling, okay? And we'll discuss the benefits, the challenges, legal requirements, and the differences between traditional and alternative education. Whether you're exploring homeschooling for your child's unique learning style or seeking a more personalized approach, this live session is for you. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Alexa, I have been getting so many like people reaching out. You know, I'm a homeschool mom, and they're like, I don't know, like Tati, I think I want to homeschool. Like, is homeschooling for me? So that's what we're diving into today. Is homeschooling right for me? Is it right for my child? So let's get started.
That's a good. Let's start out with the benefits, like the reason why people are so interested in pulling their children out of the public
Yeah.
school system. And, I'm sure there are some I want to say stereotypes about people who homeschool. And I'm sure that I have until I got of this age to really learn like, oh, okay, this is different. I think this is a great route for those who have children and want to be empowered in their education. So today, actually, for this first little part, we're going to go over the benefits of homeschooling. And I think one of my favorite benefits, well, I have a couple and what we're going to go over, but one of my favorites is a personalized learning that you can do for your child. So as you all know, I'm a special educator, so I'm all about individualization, differentiation, and making sure that every learner has what they need in order to access the curriculum. So when you take your child out of the public school system, you now get to decide what they're learning, how they're learning, when they're learning, what's important this week, what's important that week. And while it's a lot of responsibility, I think it is a big empowerment move to do that because you are really deciding what is right for your child to learn and how they learn and really taking into consideration like their style of learning, what their learning abilities may be, their strengths and their challenges. And you can really create that individualized routine and lessons that you probably wish that they were receiving in the public school system, which, to be honest, we're not going to shade the public school system too much. It's hard.
It's
It's
hard.
really hard to do that
Yeah.
for 50 kids a week, So maybe if you want to take your kid out, you can focus specifically on your child and do that. And I think that's really dope to be able to have the
Yeah.
power to do so.
I think when I think about my homeschooling journey, especially as like a professional educator, I was in the classroom And it was really during the pandemic when I really got a glimpse of, like, I know the ins and outs of the system. So I always used to tell my son, like, you go to school twice, buddy. Like, you're going to go to school and then you're going to come home and go to school. And all of my friends, they know, like, I am a strong advocate for, like, you are your child's first teacher. You need to take ownership and responsibility of teaching them those core things that are important for your family, right? So during the pandemic, when I got a sense of what school was like, I knew what I was giving my community. And when I really got to see it up front in my face, like, oh, wow, they're really having a hard time adapting to the use of technology. Like, oh, is technology used in that space? Knowing that that's something that's so important with what the world is going. So it's like, you know what? We're just gonna do this. Talk to my husband about it, and we decided that we were homeschool. At the time, I had a second grader, and he is now in the seventh grade. In the seventh grade, because homeschoolers we don't really do grades. Like he's in the seventh grade, and it's to think about the opportunities that I've been able to give him. I know as a teacher mom, acceleration was important. I knew my child came to school knowing the things, and then I saw that plateau of learning. So it was really important for me for him to get exactly what he needed in a space that I know that teachers are just overwhelmed with different needs of learners. And usually it's those learners who we know have this specialized learning needs that they get the most attention, whereas the children who come in aren't accelerated. So I didn't see that acceleration. And for me, that was important. So he's in the seventh grade, but he's able to do so much more. He's able to explore his passions. He's able to read texts that he's into. And then I think about my little, who has never been inside of a traditional schooling model. And if he had gone to school, he would just be going to kindergarten. And if you ask him today what grade he's in, my 6-year-old would probably tell you, like, I'm in the third grade, because he knows like the type of things that he's able to explore. There's no limitation for him. So creating like no limitations for your child. They're not in a group of like being tracked. Like homeschooling really opens up a wide opportunity for you to really personalize learning for every single child. But it can be a lot. And we're going to get into that. But before you dive into the curriculum, really knowing your child as a parent, knowing your family and what's important. But before you can even start homeschooling, you have to know a little bit about your local laws. So I think we're going to jump into that next, like
Yes,
your local requirements.
I actually have a question for you though, because I don't have
Hmm.
children. So I'm not a homeschooling mom. I'm an
Yeah.
educator who is interested in creating enrichment center for those who do homeschool. And so I just want you to shed a little light on what is it, how does that alter the family dynamic? Because I always say, or the reason why I'm going to be opening this enrichment center is because I just think about it. You can fit a be around your kids 24/7, 365 in the same place, doing the same things every single day. And I know that, like, I love my parents and I love my family, but, I need a break sometimes. So
Yeah.
I just would love to hear from your perspective.
Oh, so
Like,
good.
how does that create your family bonds? How did that like alter the family structure? What do you all do to remain sane and not, go
Love
crazy?
this. This is so good. This is so good. So when one, homeschooling was important to me because I knew like the amount of time I was spending at work and having little children and being like, am I able to give my children my full self, not just on the weekends? It was really important to me. So we made homeschooling possible. Now, like you said, I'm spending a lot of time. We're spending a lot of time as a family together, which is beautiful. We love it. We really enjoy it. But I always tell my friends, like, don't call us on the weekends, because weekends are, everybody gets to do exactly what they need to do. It's not like traditionally how families will spend time together on the weekend. Our weekends are like you need to let me know in advance. Because we spend so much time together. We allow everybody to have a weekend doing whatever they like to do.
Mm.
So we're really intentional about that. But we do spend time together throughout the week. And then, as you know, like founder of Soul Learning Center, I also support homeschooling families in Prince George's County, Maryland, and doing the same thing. Like, I know, like, I'm a professional. This is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. But I know the challenges involved with just like supporting your child academically, social emotionally. It takes a village. And often some people will say, like, the village is for who? The village is really for the parents. Parents need help. Like, we need help in this process. Aunties, uncles, grandma, grandpa, neighbors. The family that you build in your community is so important to supporting homeschooling. So I would say that, like, we spend time together as a family, but we also have a supporting community, different person, not like my children are getting well-rounded support, and it's not just coming from me and my husband.
Yes. I really love that because after some conversations with you and some other people I know who are homeschooling, a big revelation that I'm hearing from parents specifically is that, man, I've become the teacher, the principal, the counselor, the cafeteria lady, the bus driver. Like, you really become it all. And I think that if you are considering homeschooling, that is something that you need to take into account. And we're going to get into that a little bit as we go into what is required throughout our states and curriculum and things like that. But these are now all of the things that your public school would typically take care of. Now you are responsible for taking care of. And while it's daunting, and I'm sure it's like can be very overwhelming because I'm just diving into this to support homeschooling families, and I'm like, dang, but I believe that is doable.
Yeah,
And as
and
long as you
nowadays there are resources. Like you don't have to be all. Like, yes, starting out like you're thinking like all the things, right? Yes, like any parent, like you're the janitor, you're the lunch lady, or lunch guy, but like you're doing all the things. So I think those are typical to the responsibilities of parents. But when it comes to like taking ownership of your child's learning, like full ownership of that, you do have to seek help. Like you in any space, like lean into, if you don't have the support, find it. And I know we're going to get into that when we talk about like community, but you don't have to do all things. Like you can outsource a lot of the things that you don't feel comfortable with in any space. Keep the things that you love, right, that you're passionate about, and then delegate the things that like you might need a little bit of support, or get some coaching, or build a community that can help you in the spaces you're like I'm not so strong here. I don't want to like give that to my kids. So like, how can I become better? And I think that's just in general things that we work towards. Like, how can you become better, to be better, a better parent, a better person for your family? So there's a
yeah.
lot of that.
Love that. So for me, it sounds like the overall benefit of homeschooling is that flexibility and freedom to be able to choose and do as you choose and be empowered and strong
Yeah.
in that. And I think we're in the timeline for that right now, just in society.
Yeah.
So get in with your community and be empowered in your decision
Yeah.
making. I love that. So let's get into like some of the what's it called? The legalese. Okay, like, this is all great in La La Land, but there are actual state requirements and things that you have to do in order to become a homeschooling family.
Yeah.
And so the one thing that we want to make very, very clear here is research your state's laws around the rules and regulations of homeschooling,
Yeah.
because they're there for a reason. And quite honestly, the state just wants to be sure that, the child in your care is learning and making some educational strides. There's a really great website, like Tatiana has shared it in our meeting, but it's one that I've actually gone to over and over just in my own research. It's called hslda.org.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what that stands for. Homeschool something.
Look, I don't,
HSLDA.
I don't keep things in my brain, but HSLDA is a homeschool organization, and they support you by, if you need legal support, they have information, they have resources. So I'm definitely a member as a homeschool mom, as a founder of a homeschool co-op learning center. It's a resource. Like, tap in. You can search by your state and get more information about the legal requirements. They have resources to help you build transcript, like so much. Great site. Follow them on Instagram. They have things on there. Check them out. Another great source is Johns Hopkins University. They have been doing a lot of research, and they have a homeschool hub. So that's also a great space to just peek around, put your state in, get additional information about the requirements, right? Because, there are requirements that you need to follow for your state to make sure that you're in line with that. And some states are a little more strict. Some are really relaxed. And we'll share a little bit. Oh, yeah. And also, at the end of this, like, comment homeschool in the chat, and we'll definitely send you this information. We'll send you an invite to our private Facebook group where we have more information, but it's hslda.org. And then they also have, just Google Johns Hopkins University Homeschool Hub. You can Google that, and it'll take you right to the page. But again, homeschool in the chat, and we'll send you everything
Yeah.
at the end.
Yes, definitely do that. Another thing is like the Department of Education website of your state will provide all the information too. I go to Florida Department of Education.
Yep.
It always gets redirected there when I'm trying to figure out what steps to make. Especially if you're looking into like step up scholarships, which is like how you can help and support pay for certain things for homeschool. So it's like what I've learned in my own research is once you like take down one domino, you're going to be introduced into a world of resources and support. So it's definitely out there. And as Tatiana said, like whether you're watching this right now or later, just shout out to us by commenting homeschool so we can get your DM, add you to our Facebook group, and just hold the hub of information there.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll say about state laws because I'm in Florida, she's in Maryland. They're totally different.
Totally different. Some states like Florida, like chef's kiss, like they have all the resources. They got dollars that families can use. So you have a lot of states that support school choice, so they have a lot of options. Some schools that not so much right now, but they need to know, like we want this choice, we want this option for our families. So being in a space where we can advocate for that. But it's all about building that community, building that voice, and letting people let the voice be heard. And that way we can hopefully, I'm like, can Maryland get some of that? But definitely every state is different. So look into your state around the requirements before you get started.
Yes, and speaking of requirements, one thing that we have found a commonality between Maryland and Florida, at least, is how you showcase learning. Because the state
Mm.
ain't just gonna let you go and say, "Oh, you homeschool it and you just la la, we get rid of you." No, y'all actually have to create a portfolio that showcases your child's progress, showcases all the activities and enrichment activities, curriculum, work samples that they've been doing. And you have to, at least in Florida, you have to present that to a certified educator, aka me. So you present that to a certified educator, and then they go through the steps of evaluating, like, okay, Johnny moved from X to Z. That shows progress. You're on track, and you're good to go for another year. So what I've learned is that being very conscious of how you're tracking your child's learning, just like we talked about in our last live, like whether it's work samples, projects, enrichment activities, like you have to keep record of those things because when your child matriculates to the age where they want to go to college or they want to do this and want to do that, whoever is granting them access to that is going to need those transcripts. Is going to need to know that they've done something to showcase learning. So I know that in Florida, it's one time a year, usually at the end of the school year, May, June, that you have to have that portfolio together. But what is it for Maryland? Is
So
it a
in
little bit?
Maryland, you have to create a portfolio and it has to represent 8 subject areas. So the core areas, and in addition to music, art, and physical education. So, all the other core areas. And you will have a review of that portfolio up to 3 times a year. And most places do it twice, depending on how long you've been homeschooled, or you have the option to join an umbrella, which is overseen by either a church or a school organization where they'll conduct reviews. And ultimately, it's about, making sure that children are safe, making sure that there's evidence of learning. So in Maryland, they call it your home instruction program. They want to see evidence of thorough and regular instruction. So you just have work samples, your child samples. They want to know what type of curriculum that you're using to, nurture your child, teach your child. And then you just present that either virtually or you can submit it online. They're really flexible, but it really depends on, those are the state requirements, but every county is over like reviewing that portfolio, and they have their own structures on how to schedule time and place for a portfolio review.
Yeah, so that is something really important to know. You don't want to end up at the end of the year with no portfolio. Okay, that's like a key thing. So make sure that y'all are doing that, or you keep that in mind as you decide whether or not this is the
Yeah,
route for you.
and honestly, it's not even just for that compliance. In our last session, we talked a lot about like how to set realistic goals and have a realistic understanding of where your child is and where you want them to be. As a homeschooler, you should be doing the same. It might, and
Mhm.
again, we all have been to school in a sense, so we might have a perspective on what school looks like, but homeschooling does not need to look like traditional school where you're doing learning for this amount of hours per day and this subject blocks. You really have the opportunity to integrate learning. So it's not like math has to be separated from, humanities, or you can go out into the world. I know you heard about those world schoolers traveling all over the place and like interacting with the world and visiting different places and building connections. So you can make it as flexible. If you're an entrepreneur, like having your child involved in your life, I think it really reminds me of just the old school way of doing things. Your children are a part of your life. You're not trying to separate them from like, oh, I'm going to do this. You go over here and, play with toys. They get to learn how to live. So that's the beauty of homeschooling. You create your own structure, but that portfolio helps to give you guidance on, oh, okay, here's where my child really started. For them, they get so excited. Like, here's where they started. And then look at that progress over
Mhm.
time. And then if you know that like the career that your child might have in mind, or you know that college, or maybe some people homeschool for elementary years and they decide to go to high school, like having record of what your child's been doing in the community and academically and socially and just for their own development just really stands out to those folks who are looking at like, what is your child able to do? They have this leverage of like, wow, you are a learner. To be a homeschool is to really be a self-directed learner. You have to be motivated in a different way. And they love that. So creating that
Absolutely.
transcript that shows this unique style of just learning is really attractive to colleges and universities and other type of programs. It doesn't have to be college, but even internships. They're like, oh wow, you're a homeschooler. They automatically know that you're just a different type of learner who is able to apply your learning to just the world, because it's not just about textbooks and worksheets. So that's
Absolutely.
what I love about being a homeschool mom.
Yeah,
Mm,
everything is learning and everything is teaching. And as long as you document it, then you will set your child up for success. Even if you're homeschooling your child who may be middle school age or high school age, when it gets real sticky, like, like you said, the college applications or like this, that, the third, as long as you're keeping record of what you're doing, then your child is going to be okay.
yeah.
And that's what really matters at the end of the day. Actually, one of my friends, she hit me up because unfortunately she can't join right now. But one thing that she's a little nervous about is
Mm,
isolation in
mm,
homeschooling, being alone and having to do it. And so we do have a little talking point around a co-op learning environment, enrichment centers, where you can actually collaborate with other homeschooling families to share learning experiences and social opportunities. Like there are mad Facebook groups out there. There's some even just specifically for Palm Beach County, and it goes even more niche depending on what your interests are. So if you're looking for community, it's really like you deciding, what is my mission behind this? Why am I homeschooling my children? I sent out a newsletter, and there was a mom on there who said she pulled her children out of out of public school because she wanted them to be engrossed in their culture. So when
mm.
she was deciding between a Spanish class or a Zulu class, she was like, I didn't do, and the Spanish class was closer, and the Zulu class was a little further. She made the decision. She was like, I didn't do this to make it easier for me. I did this so that my child would be engrossed in what they need to do. So I'm going to take them to the Zulu class. So it's really important to be like, what's your mission? What's your vision? And once you start um, creating that, your community will become attracted to you.
Yes.
So that's
I
what I would
love
have to say
that.
about finding
And then
community.
if it's not there and you know that you're into it, you have quite a few children or you have family. Like I'm happy to say, like I started homeschooling and now my nieces and nephews are homeschooled. So it's like we're not in this alone. Like once you start, other people will see like how accessible it is. They'll know that they have support and your community will grow. And if it doesn't already exist, like create it. We are not meant to just consume things. We are meant to create things for our community. So if you see that there's a need for your community, create it. Get it going, get it started. You can do
Yeah.
it, and your children and your community will benefit from it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. It seems this is number two, but it seems like mindset is like the number one thing. You
yeah,
have to be in the proper mindset, an abundance mindset, a growth mindset, you know, so that you can do this and so that you can do it well and feel empowered
Yeah.
about it. So that's what I would have to say about community. Do you have any other like tips or tricks for like co-op learning or anything like that, or just like
No,
giving
I like what
Google?
you said about just I for a long time when I started homeschooling, I would be in the Facebook groups, but I wouldn't necessarily say anything. Or sometimes you'd go to the visits and you might like not mesh with the folks. So I would say don't give up, like keep going, go out there, engage with others, like put it out there, do some meetups, follow up on the meetups. You really you talk about socialization. Like you really have to model for your children what it looks like to make friends and to connect with people. Like we tell them all the time, like, oh, you need to make some friends. But when you're a homeschooler, like you are really intentional about going out. Hi, how's it going? And like talking to people and you model that for your children. You're modeling communication. You're modeling how to build community. You're modeling how to advocate for you're showing it. I'm advocating for you. I'm advocating for myself. Your children get to learn how to do it, and it really empowers them because they see it. So I think that's the power of it. If you feel like, oh, socialization, like it's because you have to be intentional about it. Like you have to actually go outside, talk to
Talking
people,
about we outside. No,
and
yeah, go to the
sometimes it's
playground.
challenging, right? Go to the playground and hey, go talk to this person. Go out, and the beauty is homeschoolers love to go on the daytime. Find groups, community centers. I know in Prince George's County we have a lot of activities within the community
Mm-hmm.
centers. If your child plays a sport,
Mm-hmm.
all type, just you have to be intentional. Whatever your child is interested in, or maybe you guys want to start having some little adventures, and on those adventures you'll meet people, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always a great talking point where you're like, I'm a homeschooler.
You're like,
You don't really
ooh.
really care, yeah, even if they're not. So, and then don't be afraid and think that homeschooling is just for like stay-at-home moms. When I started homeschooling, I was working a full-time job.
Oh,
Even now, like
that?
I work.
How many years
My
like say
husband
that
and I
again?
work. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is, so you don't have to be like, oh, one person is staying at home and what, you can be both parents or maybe a single parent. Like it's definitely possible. Again, you have to be really intentional about building that community, but you don't have to be a stay-at-home parent to homeschool.
I love that you said that because
Yeah.
I know that that can be a hindrance if I'm
Oh
if I'm
yeah, that was one
figuring
of
out
the
how to
things. Like as
homeschool.
I started saying it, I'm like, that's something I used to look in the group. Like I would type that keywording, like, who else is in this girl? Like,
I got a job.
they got a job. Like, how are these people doing this? I was really a part of that, like just figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are they doing this?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is that community, and it's different from being in
Yeah.
school, right? You really have to build the mindset around what it means to be a learner,
Mm-hmm.
and really empower your children to take ownership of their learning. That's how you successfully work and homeschool your children. So it takes time. So you can't give up. You're gonna do things and like have to reflect and refine the process. And like I said, I started my son, my almost 13-year-old was in the second grade. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm almost to that point. And there are a lot of people who have graduated their children. So reach out to those people if you know that that's the journey that you want to take. So I
Absolutely.
love what you said. Like, be really clear about your why behind doing it, and just let that drive you, and then tweak as you go,
And
and then reach out to people who've done it because
yes.
we're doing it.
Yes, don't give up. I love that.
Yeah.
Everything you do now becomes a model for your child. And so
Mm.
you want to teach them perseverance, and you need to persevere. You want to teach them resilience, then be resilient. You want to teach them communication, then communicate. And so it's kind of like you all are, it's like a symbiotic relationship, really, where like
Oh,
everybody is teaching and learning
we
from
are learning
one another.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? No, my husband does not do the homeschooling. There are families that I know who are like, oh, my husband's doing the this and then I'm gonna do the that, like, so you can work it out. I think as in, you get to talk about relationships, and it's like every relationship operates differently. My husband is like, that's your thing. He supports in the sense of like talking to my children about being responsible, our children about being responsible, and like, being focused, and like, so he's encouraging, he loves it, like he values the experience that his children get to have as homeschoolers, but he's not the teacher.
I'm the degree.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
degrees. You see,
Yeah,
well,
he's
yeah,
like, you agreed up. He always still tell me like, you know, that's your thing. But at the same time, like, we want to empower you. Although we are educators, you do
yes,
not have to
you
be
do
an
not have
educator to
to.
do this.
You
Like,
don't.
there are curriculums that you can purchase to make it helpful for you. That are, I mean, and to be honest, there's a lot of teachers in the classroom that are not certified, did not go. I mean, I went to school of education, did not go to a school of education. They have curriculums that are designed to help parents. Khan Academy, whoop, whoop, I love them. Like, they have really great online free curriculum in math, science, and all other
Hmm.
content areas. So those are resources that are available to you. So you do not need to be an educator. But in my household, my husband's like, you, that is your specialty. You do that.
I love that. Well,
Yeah,
speaking of curriculum, it goes back to like your mission because there are secular curriculums,
yeah,
there are ones that focus just in STEM, ones that focus just in the arts. So it's like really whatever is driving your family, what your children are interested in, will lead you to your answer that you're looking for. And
yeah,
it's just having confidence and moving that way. So, like I said, honestly, once you click the domino to get into this world, you're going to be like Alice in Wonderland and just fall
Ooh,
in
it
so many
is a
different
beautiful rabbit
resources.
hole. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things. And then also we're here to
Yeah.
support you. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of support. It's not, honestly, I was homeschooled at one point in my educational journey, and it was because I just wasn't connecting at school. And out of all my siblings, I have four siblings I grew up with, and my mom decided to homeschool me, and she wasn't able to continue that. She decided at, like, I think I went back like sixth grade. So in Maryland, that's at that, like, last year, it was the last year in elementary school. She's like, oh, you're going to get to graduate from elementary school. But I believe, like, if she had the community that exists now, it would have started with me. And then her other children would have been homeschooled, and we would have been able to sustain that. So now it's so easy to connect. You don't, like, look at us. You're in Florida. Not too far, but we're able to connect on that space, in that space
Absolutely.
together through this virtual world. So I'm
Absolutely.
definitely grateful for the internet.
Okay, because it has everything,
Yeah,
and anything can come to reality as long as you put some gusto behind it.
yeah,
Um, so, all right. I mean, I feel like we kind of hit all of our points, unless there's anything else that feel the surface. But the main point here is, if you're thinking about homeschooling, the very first step is research. My first step would be researching like the law. I mean, get into the foo if you want, but like you want to make sure you are, you have your structure together. At least the basic requirements that you need to hit. But other than
yeah,
that, it's really about what your family wants, what your mission is, what your vision is, what your why is behind all this, and moving forward to it. And it's honestly, if that thing in the back of your head keeps telling you and you're already curious about doing it, I would just say look into it and keep going for it. Take baby steps
yeah,
and push it forward because something is telling you to do it. And I feel like we're in the timeline. I feel like I just said that like 5 minutes ago. We're like in the timeline to like do this type of work together as communities. So why not take advantage of that?
yeah. Absolutely. Get it started. Like you said, if you have, for whatever reason, if you want to spend more time with your family, you want to take a shift in your lifestyle, you want to provide your children with opportunities that you don't think they're getting in the traditional setting, do it. Like, make a plan, talk to the people around you to see how they can support, and just do it.
Like
It doesn't hurt to try.
Nike.
Yeah, just do
All right. Well, I think that's all that we have for today.
it.
Real
Yeah.
quick today. And this is usually going to be the length of these of these
Yeah.
empowered together sessions, about half an
And
hour.
Destiny, thanks
Um,
for coming in and asking questions. So, I would
that's
love
Dr.
for more of
Valerie.
that.
Hey.
Yeah. I
She's
love
another
that.
lady I connected with on the internet. We met at a virtual entrepreneur thing, and we're connected. Talk about the strength of the internet, right? Speaking of the strength of the internet, as Tatiana mentioned, we have a private Facebook group where we'll be sharing resources and building that community. I think it's dope that we're in two different spaces, Maryland and Florida, to exchange a whole bunch of different ideas. So be sure to comment
Yeah.
homeschool if you're interested, and we'll add you to the group. Yeah, I guess we'll see you all
Yeah.
next month, right?
Yeah. See you next month in like 2 days, basically. That's what it feels like. See you in a week. No.
Right.
See you next
Yes.
month. This was so good. I can't wait for the next topic.
Yes.
Or let's
Oh,
continue this discussion more. So we're here to talk. I'm here all to talk about homeschooling. So let's continue talking about homeschooling until next time.
all right, y'all. Peace.